birthday badge too much? I feel like the birthday badge is probably too much. Hello and welcome to my first birthday on YouTube. Can we believe it? This time last year I set up my channel and posted my very first video, and to celebrate my first anniversary on my channel I asked you all on YouTube and also on Instagram and Twitter to send me in your questions for a little Q&A that I wanted to do to celebrate this milestone. And before we get into the questions, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone that has subscribed, watched a video, commented on a video, liked a video, anything you've done interaction wise with my channel that has been positive. I want to say a big thank you to, because it means. And if you're not already subscribed, now is the perfect time. Just go on, just hit the subscribe button. So we're gonna start off with a question that came in from Logan Marsh. So thank you, Logan, for submitting your question. And I think this is kind of the perfect place to start, because Logan has asked, what made you start doing videos? And essentially the whole point of my channel at the beginning was to chart my journey through the Formula Woman competition that I took part in last year. So I was, social media was a really big part of the competition, particularly in the sort of beginning, middle part of it. And I love social media as far as, using it for good and trying to get creative as possible. So I figured I already enjoy doing this. It's going to be good for the competition, so why not do it? So that's why I set it up. And I kind of loved it even more than I thought that I would, and it really ended up expanding. So we had my driver deep dive series, we have my general F1 chit chat videos, and then obviously my women in motorsport interview series as well. So I was really nervous about starting the channel at first, but a year on I just couldn't be happier that I did. So Kelsey K Racing, who is another Formula Woman competitor from last year, asked me a very fun question, which is, when you think of Formula One, who or what is the first thing or person that you instantly think of? Now, any of you who have been following my channel for any amount of time, or anyone that follows me on social media, will know that I've been a long time Lewis Hamilton fan. So I have to be honest, when I think of F1 or when someone asks me about F1, Lewis is generally the first thing that kind of comes into mind. Ger McCarthy is the wonderful host of the Women in Sport podcast that I do for Cork's Red FM. I do the F1 segment with him every week, and he is a huge Ferrari fan. So naturally he has asked me a Ferrari focused question, which is, how brilliant is it to see Ferrari doing so well despite their drivers? And what he means by this is the fact that the Ferrari car is obviously capable of fantastic things this season, and unfortunately Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz just haven't been able to maximise that. They just haven't got the sort of 100% performance out of the car on a consistent basis. Charles is obviously, getting there. It's the little mistakes that are holding him back, and then Carlos, I feel like, is a step behind. And Ferrari is a fundamental part of Formula One's DNA and its history. So I think for any fan, regardless of whether you're particularly a fan of the drivers or the team, or whether your favorite team is someone else, you have to be happy about Ferrari doing well, because it's just good for the sport, really. And I think their fans have endured many years at this point of showing up to the track in droves and just seeing really poor performances. So I think definitely happy about that. But yes, I am a little concerned that essentially the championship, both from a driver standpoint and a constructor standpoint, is almost Ferrari's to lose. Like, no disrespect to Red Bull, but the Ferrari car is capable of winning both the drivers and the constructors championship. They just need Charles and Carlos to be dialed in 100% with the car. So next question, Linda asked, do they have different tyres when in hotter countries for melting reasons? And This is a very relevant question given the soaring temperatures that we saw last weekend in Barcelona, where the track temperature at one point was up around 50 degrees Celsius, which is very, very hot by anyone's standards. And the answer to this question is yes, kind of. So the tyre choices that are brought to each Grand Prix are essentially dictated by the supplier, which is Pirelli, and generally they'll offer a hard, medium or soft compound tyre, and these are in a category called slicks because they're for dry conditions. Now, depending on the conditions as far as heat, etc., the teams will then figure out which of the compounds is going to work best for them that weekend during practice, and depending if they've raced at that track before in those types of conditions, they'll obviously have historical data as well. But aside from dry conditions, there are also different levels of wet tyres which allow the teams to drive in sort of varying volumes of surface water on the track as well. Side note, there is an important rule to mention here that every driver must use more than one tyre compound during a race or else they are penalised. So that happened to Alex Albon recently. Now the team was willing to take the hit for the sake of the position that they achieved in the race, but that is quite unusual and you wouldn't typically see it happen very often. Okay, next question is, do you think Aston Martin can turn it around and return to the midfield? So this is another question that was submitted by Logan Marsh, and honestly I really had to think about how I feel about Aston Martin's prospects this season. If we look at where they were even this point last year, for example, 6 races into the 2021 season, and they had 4 point scoring finishes, and they had within that a top 5 finish and a double points finish in Monza. Looking at 2022 so far, with the same amount of races having been completed, they have only had 3 point scoring finishes, and 2 of those were 10th place. So they've also had 1 retirement. I think overall it's just not been the best start for them, and they would be considered, I wouldn't say that they're like back of the grid, but they kind of are. Like, it doesn't make sense to me to say it, but that's the reality at the moment. And they've obviously, just had the drama of the copycat accusations from Red Bull. They came out of that unscathed as far as the FIA was concerned, but even after all of that, those upgrades that they did bring in Barcelona don't seem to have kind of kicked in as quickly as they wanted them to. And if I'm completely honest, I just don't see the momentum being there yet for Aston Martin to make huge strides this year. Now, it's a very long season, so I could be proven wrong. I hope that I am proven wrong, but I'm particularly interested to see what happens with Sebastian Vettel, because I mean, he could have retired when he was leaving Ferrari, but he didn't. And his contract with Aston Martin does run out at the end of this year. So, if you take that into consideration, and the fact that he has expressed concerns with the sustainability of Formula One as well, he said that essentially his interest in carrying on would be dependent on how well the team can get the car to perform along with himself and Lance this year, and essentially he would go from there. I don't know if there's enough going on there right now that's going to be exciting Sebastian to stay in the sport, especially after such a long career and all the difficult time that he did have at Ferrari. I just don't think he is interested in being out there in a bad spot. I don't think that's going to give him energy. So I think if hypothetically the team was just left with Lance Stroll at the end of 2022, you would be looking for a really exciting, high impact second driver to come into that team that they would hopefully sign over this summer for the 2023 season. And if they do go for somebody, high impact and exciting, what you then have to think about is the fact that Lance Stroll's dad is an owner in that team. He has, is heavily involved. How does that dynamic play out? I just think there's a lot going on for Aston Martin right now, and I think they're just not quite offsetting that with performance on track. Again, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone that submitted questions for today's video. To finish off, I have a very exciting announcement, which is that in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be interviewing a W Series driver, Sarah Moore. I am absolutely buzzing about this, and if you have any questions that you've ever wanted to ask a professional racing driver, drop them in the comments below and I will try to squeeze them into my conversation with Sarah. There's only one thing that I need you to do, which is hit the subscribe button, because that is the guaranteed way that you will be notified when that interview goes live on my channel, and let's be honest, you don't want to miss it. So do that for me, and until the next time, enjoy your racing and take care.